An excerpt from My Religion by Helen Keller. Truly I have looked into the very heart of darkness and refused to yield to its paralyzing influence, but in spirit I am one of those who walk the morning. What if all dark, discouraging moods of the human mind came across my way as thick as the dry leaves of autumn? Other feet have traveled that road before me, and I know the desert leads to God as surely as the green, refreshing fields and fruitful orchards. I, too, have been profoundly humiliated and brought to realize my littleness amidst the immensity of creation. The more I learn, the less I think I know, and the more I understand of my sense experience, the more I perceive its shortcomings and its inadequacies as a basis of life. Sometimes the points of view of the optimist and the pessimist are placed before me so skillfully balanced that only by sheer force of spirit can I keep hold upon a practical, livable philosophy of life. But I use my will, choose life, and reject its opposite, nothingness. Edwin Markham has exquisitely wrought into his poem, Take Your Choice, the opposing moods and different beliefs which contend for supremacy today. Quote, On the bough of the rose tree is the prickling briar. The delicate lily must live in the mire. The hues of the butterfly go at a breath. At the end of the road is the house of death. Nay, nay, on the briar is the delicate rose. In the mire of the river the lily blows. The moth is as fair as the flower of the sod. At the end of the road is a door to God. So coming off of Helen's incredibly powerful words, I have so many thoughts about my own personal journey and the moment that we are all in right now, the zeitgeist, the sort of spirit of our times that we're living in right now. So My Religion, Helen's really her memoir of her faith journey, was deeply meaningful to me this last year. I am currently writing my own memoir. I'm a student in a Master Fine Arts program working on creative writing and specifically nonfiction and memoir writing. And I myself am a disabled individual who has a history of being in ministry. And so I have been wrestling with how to put on the page my journey with my body as a disabled person and my journey with my faith. And there are really only a few rare and precious memoirs that deal with the intersection of these topics. And Helen's My Religion was one of them. And so, interestingly, I picked it up off of my own shelf where it had been for over a decade. I had a friend who gifted it to me from an antique bookstore like a decade ago, and I'd never read it. And finally, just in passing, it, as books sometimes do, caught my eye on the shelf, and it felt like the right moment. And as I was reading, it was one of those moments where sort of heart on fire, like this is really moving me, in the sort of explosive moment where that feeling connected with the intellectual, excitement of learning about a new perspective of faith, which I had not heard about Swedenborgism before. And so after reading the book and having sort of this profound experience with it, I became very curious if there were Swedenborg churches today and if that was still an existent denomination. And so I Googled it, and I found a Swedenborg church or chapel in the Harvard Square area in Massachusetts. And on a whim, I sent a Facebook message. And it was Sage Cole who answered my message, and on the other side of that message, I had just shared that I what everything that I've said today, which is that, I was a student writing a memoir and disabled and on a faith journey and all of these things. And Sage, I think, was very excited to hear from me. She expressed excitement because she had been in the process of birthing the Helen Keller Spiritual Life Collaborative at that moment. And it seemed to her and to me when she shared that it was a serendipitous meeting. So we started talking and virtually chatting with each other and sharing our stories. And it was really this deeply synergistic moment for me. And I think for Sage as well, and just like this deep stirring of heart. And so this has been a really powerful moment for me because, to be honest, it's been a healing journey. After having been formerly a minister who I did experience a lot of discrimination because of my disabilities, and in large part it was because of my disabilities that my career in ministry ended, and that left a really big wound in my heart and in my life for many years. And even as I was writing my memoir, I was struck with the difficulty of finding words to describe this pain of this lost dream. And it's sort of in that journey of trying to find those words, I not only have begun to find them, but also to find healing. And so that's been an amazing touchstone for me, and how it makes me think about how the effort to make a connection can often lead us to these points of healing. And as I ponder Helen's words now, going back to the excerpt that I read, I am so struck by how she focuses in on a decision that we make, a moment of exercising our will to choose life and to reject nothingness, and how deeply meaningful that choice is, and how that perspective shift can bring us from sort of a place of discouragement into a place of life. And I feel like that was sort of the moment for me that, circling back now, even to before I made the decision to enter into a Master of Fine Arts program as a writer, I had gone through just a deeply discouraging, sort of your career choice sort of crashing down, and my health taking a nosedive, and I was like Helen, tempted to give in to the nothingness, but felt a still small voice calling me into life, and just a desire not to quit and to turn into, to believe that there was more, and that there is life, that there is, as the poet Edwin Markham says, the delicate lily growing and the beautiful rose and the briar. And I just was so deeply stirred as I took the time to ponder this beloved meditation and return to Helen's words. So I just spent some time actually writing, and a poem came out of it for me. And I think the last thing I will share is I will just end this little meditation with the poem that I wrote. And this sort of ethereal concept is to introduce this poem of the moment of a interaction in which we are aware of something greater, something mystical, something other, something that we can't quite put words into, that calls us into something deeper, something more. And that something more could be connection with others, the love that is there in that, or it could be a turn in our path that brings us into a new direction of new life, and just something exciting, something beautiful. And so as I sort of turn to the poem, I just want to encourage everyone who's listening to also meditate with me on what in your life right now is a moment of the book on the bookshelf that is calling to you, the moment of a turn in your life, the moment of choosing, sometimes by sheer force of will, choosing life and choosing beauty. And I just want to leave you guys with that, and with with a hope that even in the times we're living in, which sometimes can feel quite overwhelming and dark, that there is still that hope and that light and that fragrance of something more calling to us. And I just hope and want to send a a wish and a hope into the ethereal realm of this virtual space that thing which calls you will find you today, that you'll hear it, that you'll feel it, and it will embrace you and lift you today into love and into spaces in which you find and feel and are able to express just the beauty of love. And here is the poem I wrote as I meditated on all this. To My Religion by Helen Keller, from the Helen Keller Spiritual Life Collaborative. A poem by April Alario. Old book, blessed, sweet, with a stale slant like my grandmother, fragrant as fragile things are. You came to me in wrapping paper Christmas Eve, just after midnight mass. My old college friend who became a doctor thought of me at the antique bookstore. That was the last time we'd meet to commemorate our Vatican visit a decade before, which, to be fair, was a tradition only I really enjoyed. Old book, like memory, you collected dust for another 10 years until one day you were no longer about her. Until my question was for disabled bodies, in disabled bodies. Through disabled bodies, I wanted to see, as one sees through a prism, the way the light would split into delicate descriptions of itself, maybe even of God. Your words swirled, cinematic, like incantations in fictional dead languages, unknowable, just felt, and my chest glowed as time and space collapsed in your yellowed must. And there I was, with Helen, marveling at peonies, then astral projecting, or something like it, to places unseen, ethereal feet cupping ancient histories beneath cool cobblestone where mind and book and spirit meet, loosed of time, loosed of body and of sense, yet somehow grounded in all three. Was it dirt beneath my feet, or grass, or carpet, or all of everything, everywhere, all at once, transcendent like the living Jesus, adorned with radiance beside the prophets of old, clothed in existence, standing with truth? And through her, through you, old book, an idea, a Facebook message, and a new friend. Like Helen found Anne in the darkness, like she found water in the silence. One soul, then another, and then a collaborative chain of daisies, soft green stems joining blossom after blossom. Was that it all along, old book? I must ask. Was that why you smelled like flowers all along?